Hello, everyone. I'm back. And today I wanted to talk about mediumship. Today being Martin Luther King's first, I wanted to give honor up to today is Martin Luther King's birthday, and the reflections that have happened over the years in terms of celebrating his birthday have evolved from just celebrating his birthday, kind of wishing him a happy birthday and trying to stay within the energy of what he was trying to accomplish in the 60s during the civil rights movement into a more of a world, at least a countrywide reflection of racism and inequality in America, and how we can reflect on the ways that we can become better human beings, better, more united, more understanding, more working together, but also honoring the fact that some of the methods used to speak up, to speak out, and to be heard be comfortable, may not be comfortable ways for some, but in my personal experience of growth and healing, and evolving and expanding, it's never been comfortable, right? It's never been, a beautiful little well-paved road that I walk along peacefully and la la la. No, it's never been that way. Things that make us uncomfortable are areas in which we should pay attention to. Dig into a little bit into why that makes us uncomfortable. Get to that kind of root cause of it. Is it a triggering response from an earlier situation or encounter? Or is it really, it's uncomfortable? Really, you make me uncomfortable because you're kind of creepy and you're being creepy and I don't feel safe around you. So there's that. And then sometimes the uncomfortability is a fear of our own fears, our own preconceived or our unconscious biases or conscious biases about the outcome of a situation if I was to participate in it, if I was to do it. A decent example that I can think of off the top of my head, because remember, we're talking to myself. I can think of off the top of my head about that would be like, I remember the first time I danced on stage. Terrifying experience. I was very uncomfortable with it. But I did it. And and I'm not going to say the first time I danced on stage. The first times I danced on stage at an age where I was more consciously aware of other people and their opinions upon me. Because the first time I danced on stage, I was like 3, and I don't remember ever being scared just going out and doing it, because that's, I'm 3 and that's, like, this is what we're doing. Yay, yay, yay. It's when you get older and insecurities about yourself and your abilities and all that, all that stuff that comes up, that would be more of a time of reflection on that. But back to the point is, so on this day, it is a time of reflection upon what can we do to make this world a better place, or what I prefer to think of it as is, what can I do to leave the world better than I found it? That motto actually came about when I was a part of a group where we used to hold a lot of events year round, go to a lot of different camping trips, and the model was so that we could continue to have service of that space, so that we can continue to be invited back to use that space for future events that we would have or plan, was to leave the place better than we found it. I would And that philosophy really, really stuck with me. And I would like to challenge myself to, and so from there, I did start challenging myself to, let me leave people better than I found them. How can I leave other human life, or even just life in general, better than I found it? And then I took it to that next level of, how can I leave this planet better than I found it? And some of the things that came to mind is, one, I've been a healer since I can remember, very young. I knew I was a healer. And I'm not, no, I don't fix broken bones. Sorry, I'm not that type of healer. I'm more of the comfort, bringing you healing, love, and light, asking for you to receive the support and love you need for your best and highest. Um, just holding space for you while you work through the challenges or difficulties that you're going through, so that you can heal yourself, because I am a huge believer in the best healing you'll ever receive is the one you give to yourself. I am just the vessel that just holds energy around you to make you feel okay and comfortable with starting and tapping into that process for yourself. So I've always been in that healing modality, or that healing way of thinking or being, since I was very little. And it expresses itself in various different forms throughout my life, in various different ways. There is no one like way that I would express my healing modality. It came in various different ways. Majority of it, though, came through being present for other people. The majority of it came through listening, um, a, a hug, a pat on the back, you're doing good. Um, a majority of it came through just acknowledging without trying to fix. Um, and understanding when a total random stranger walks up to me and decides that he needs to tell me his entire life story right now, knowing that that is a healing moment for him, and that I am being the catalyst for it, and that this brief 30 seconds, 60 seconds of my time is necessary, that he'll be able to take with him to continue on his journey of healing. And recently, mediumship uh, has become another tool in my healing toolbox. Um, so mediumship. I doubt anybody's listening to this that doesn't know what mediumship is. But for the one person I might snag who has no idea, it is when a person, moi, or other persons, are able to expand their awareness from just this physical plane to the spiritual plane, and you, through their senses, that we all have our senses, the five senses, six sense for ESP is what they call it, but whatever. But the basic five senses, but through any forms of our senses, are able to connect with and communicate non with humans, with spiritual beings who no longer inhabit a physical form. And then there are those who believe that they also communicate with spiritual, higher level spiritual energies. The best word I can use for that were never physical, that never inhabited a physical body. So yeah, that stuff. But that's just a general. So as the channel, I would sit with you, the sitter, me, myself, whoever, and I would expand my awareness, and a loved one would step forward and start communicating through my senses, information, that they would want me to share with you and bring a message to you. And while all forms of mediumship have, and then of course, like everything else, there's different ways, there's different levels, there's different forms, there's different types, on and on and on. I really don't want to get into that, but for the most part, the general gist of it is demonstrating that just because you die, I prefer the word transition, but just because you die, because everybody understands that word die, the essence of who you are, your spiritual self, your soul, continues continues after you lose this physical shell. So I hope that was a general enough and not too confusing explanation of what mediumship is. If it was too general and slightly confusing for you, again, Google's your friend, and there are tons of people out there who can give you the step A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1 through 20. What mediumship is, especially, but I don't really want to get caught up in the whole what is mediumship, what is it mediumship conversation right now. I really want to just kind of get to the point of why I wanted to talk about mediumship today. And the reason why, and especially today on MLK Day, and the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because in mediumship and my healing, oh yeah, we got to tie that back in, because there was a point. I get distracted. That's why this is talk to myself, because I'm easily distracted. The healing portion. So mediumship has become part of my healing. It's become a new tool in my healing box. Now, what's interesting about developing my mediumship has been that it has been more about developing and healing myself. So the way I heal, and I still heal this way, with the various different ways of doing it, I never really had to, well, heal myself, go in there and kind of dig things out, figure out my own biases or whatever. I would just do it. It was a natural thing that happened. I would say that I literally would just step aside and allow the healing energies or healing spirits to step in and do what they got to do, because I really encountered a lot of strangers in that I didn't know them. I didn't know they were coming. I didn't even know why they were there. Who and when it first started happening, I would get a little confused. Don't get me wrong. I would be like, what's going? Oh, this is healing. So as I got used to it and knew what that was and knew what was happening, now into this medium, the past few years, it's been moving into a more mediumship, developing my mediumship and mental mediumship specifically. Trance has been something I've done since I was also young, but trance has always been more of a personal healing thing for myself, and I kind of had to figure that out. I actually figured that out this year, that for me, trance mediumship was something that really was about me, and the energies, the spirit people that would come through me to talk to me, to discuss things with me, to work with me, were really here for my own personal healing journey. It wasn't something that was really about demonstration or being in public or being in front of people. It was really about my personal healing journey. Once I wrapped my brain around that, things have gone really, really well. But with mental mediumship, and mental mediumship is the stuff that you guys are used to. It's Teresa Cavuto, Lisa Williams, in some regardless of what you think or not think, of various different TV personalities that do mediumship, psychic mediumship. That's a whole nother days worth of conversation. We're not really going to delve into it, but that's what mental mediumship is. It's being able to either get up in front of a group of people or on a one-on-one to bring through their spirit loved ones and to bring them messages from their spirit loved ones after you establish that they know the spirit loved one that you're bringing it through. Now back to why I bring this up for me is that I recently discovered that I'm a healing medium. And you're probably going, what's different about that? Well, for me, what's different about it is, number one, while I appreciate all forms of mediumship, really, I do. For me personally, for me to do mental mediumship, it has to be on a healing component. And when I mean healing, I mean deep healing. I don't mean just you're comforted to know that your grandmother is doing fine on the other side. I recently, in the past few months, gotten quite a few people who were sent to me, who I feel like Spirit put in my path to explain this to myself, who were suicidal. Their level of depression was unbearable. Their ability to function in the world had gotten to the point of really deep painful for them. And at first presented with these energy with people in these states was terrifying for me. I'm not gonna lie. And you would think the terrifying part is the fact that I can connect to their grandfather and tell them all about him. Right? You would think that should be terrifying. And nope, that doesn't scare me. That's just a day's work. That just is, you know. No, the terrifying part is having this person who's sitting in front of you. You can feel, oh my, and their relatives are telling you, oh my, this person is on the edge. Oh my, can you bring them back? And I'm like, I don't know. We're going to try. And so that realization about my mediumship has in its own self been challenging. Because now I'm marrying the years of healing, and I mean not even years, I'm 50 people. I can go back as far as 3 as to my first healing kind of situation. So I've been doing some form of healing in some form of modality for 40 some odd years. And so now I've got to marry 40 some odd years of doing it in these ways with the mediumship, mental mediumship part of doing it. And bringing these together for me has been absolutely terrifying. And not terrifying because in and of itself, it's a scary thing. It's not scary. Let me try to help separate some things. There is nothing scary about mediumship. Not a darn thing. Not a thing. Nothing. Being scared of mediumship is just being scared of yourself, in my opinion, because mediumship is it just is. It's who we are. We are spirit. It makes sense that we connect with other spirits. It makes sense that we have this ability to expand into the spiritual way of being. And every single person has a story of when they could feel, smell, taste, hear a loved one that's transitioned after they transition. Every single one of us, whether we want to admit to it or not, every one of us has this story. So there is the most natural thing in the world, and not really that, in my opinion, mediumship is the same as breathing. You know, you are a spirit. Therefore, your ability to connect with spirits, other spirits, whether they're in the physical form or the non-physical form, is the same thing. I think we put too many words, and then we put too many parameters, and we put too many boxes on things. This is, again, my opinion. My opinion. You probably will encounter people with different opinions, and that's okay. But in my opinion, I feel like there's too many parameters, there's too many boxes, there's too many, you have to do it this way for it to work. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. There are guidelines and steps of doing things to make things easier for you to do them and to do them successfully. However, they're guidelines. We all don't operate the same way. So for me personally, as a person who knows that I'm about healing and all about the healing and all about the healing, all about the healing, healing and mediumship for me expresses in a way that is it's going to be slightly different than other people. Because part of healing and mediumship is that now I'm required to also be healed and to face those parts of myself that I might not have been paying attention to feel things. Not a feeling person. I don't mind feeling things for other people to get them to the place they need to be, but I don't know why I have to be involved in that whole feeling thing. I don't know. Why me? But I have to break all of those things out, and that's something that's been going on for quite some time now. In that process, what happens is that when I go into doing my mental mediumship, now when I go into bringing through a person's spirited loved ones, I'm really bringing them in because we are about to do a healing. And when I'm doing a healing, there's a whole different energy shift for me, and I'm going in. And that's where my soul, not my ego personality, my soul steps up, expands, and brings everybody into that space together so that we can get this done. We can get this person to that next level, not only with them connecting and being with their loved one, but also for them to move into that next space of wanting to continue in their healing journey. And I realized this actually just a few days ago. And having this realization, and this is why we're having this talk with myself, having this realization about it has really changed the way I view mediumship. I mean, I think my views were already changed, but had already started changing, but now I'm consciously aware of their change. So a couple things. Number one, I do not make my living as a medium. I don't have my own shingle. I don't have my own store. I don't have an appointment book. I don't market. I have a full-time, daytime job, career, as you call it. So for me, my mental mediumship work is always when it's brought to me. I don't go seek it out, so to speak. I don't teach. I mean, I teach. I'll teach classes. I will do a gallery if someone asks me, but it's mostly asks me, but it's not my income stream. So just to get that out of the way. There is nothing wrong if it's your income stream, by the way. I have nothing against anybody who chooses this profession as their profession. Nothing, nothing, nothing. I'm just letting you know that this awakening and this expansion and this whole discussion has nothing to do with me trying to get my company off the ground. I have no company to get off the ground, which also presents its own challenges. So there's that purest way, that way that people might feel like, oh, look at me. I just do it for the love of doing it. And that's pretty ego-based kind of statement. I'm not going to lie. When you sit around saying that you are somehow better at it or more pure, because you don't do it for money, you do it for the love of doing it. There's a lot of ego wrapped up in that statement. There's a lot of ego wrapped up in that feeling. And I think one of the things that's not talked about is actually there is something to be said about it being your profession. Because when it's your job, there is there's a focus, there's a foundation, and there's a kind of like a track to follow. I'm not saying that you have to follow there's only one track, don't get me wrong. But there is a more of there are things that have to be taken into account. Not only developing your mediumship to a level where you can produce the phenomenon needed so you can pay your bills, so you can eat that day. But there's also an ability to focus in on and just really hit to the points that makes you a better communicator with spirit, between spirit and the part and your sitter or your client. So there's a lot of, I think, ambiguity that kind of gets filtered out, because it's not just you being a mental medium and having these interactions with clients, but it's also being a business person, because you this is your business, this is your livelihood. There's also finding that balance between still having work-life balance. There's and all of those things that come into play when it's your job, just like any other job, people, any other, whether you're an entrepreneur, you work for a Fortune 500, or you work at McDonald's, all of it. So, there is a focus in it. There's a structure in it. There's a way that you can do it. For me, so in my opinion, that feels like something that is a positive, that could be helpful, For me, though, being the person who does this, I'm developing my ability to heal, to leave the world better than I found it. I am going to utilize all of my skill sets and all of my talents and all of my abilities to do my part to leave the world better than I found it. Mental mediumship is just another part of me, of a tool that I can use to leave the world better than I found it. Leave people better, feeling better. Leave behind, so because I know I will transition. I'm 100% sure. Really, I'm 100% sure that I will transition. So when I do, I want to know that I did my part to leave a kinder, gentler space, and the space that I inhabited, and I am not crazy enough to believe that I can affect the change of the entire universe or the world. There's billions upon billions of people here, but I can do my part in the space that I inhabit currently. And am I perfect at it? Hell no. Do I get it right all the time? No. But I do my best every time to do my part. Bringing it back to the mediumship focus. So finding out that that my mediumship is just, my mental mediumship has become, not just, I should stop saying that. There's nothing just about me, about anything that we do. Finding out that my mediumship, my and doing mediumship is a healing component. It's part of, is another piece for my healing, my natural healing that I've been doing. Not that mediumship has a healing. Okay, I'm going to stop talking against all the other stuff. I'm talking to myself, so just listen. um, Finding out that my mediumship is more of another tool for me in terms of greater healing, to bring healing, and another tool for me to use to continue to leave the world a better place than I found it, than when I arrived. But it's not at this time my living, how I make my living or how I live my life, makes it, while it gives me freedom to expand and develop and to dig deeper and take my time with things, like I can go and decide that I'm not going to do any readings for 3 months because I really want to dig into this one piece that I just discovered about my mediumship. And I really, really want to just, maybe overthink it and, overwork it, whatever. But then I have that freedom to do that because it's not how I make a living. While that might sound ideal, it really isn't. Because it leaves a lot of free time to do things and get involved in things with yourself that may or may not be for your best and highest. So, like everything in life, there is balance. And like everything in life, there's a good side and there's a drawback, and the goal is to balance the good side and the drawback. And the reason why I say drawback instead of bad side, because I don't believe there's such a thing as bad or good. It's just a balance. Life is about balance. The world is about balance, natural law of balance. Things have to balance for it to work. It's really hard to do the seesaw, when you're sitting on those, what are those seesaw things? I don't know, I call them seesaws. It's really hard to do the seesaw thing by yourself. You need balance on the other side so that you can have fun with it, right? So anyway, and it's also not fun to have the balance on the other side be way lighter than you because you still ain't moving, or vice versa. So again, balance. So in terms of balancing, for me, I've come to that space. And so, like I said, I've just had this awareness that this is another healing part of my mediumship. And what do I want to do with it? And where do I go next? Because it's not my living, it's not where I go next is really up to me. It's really about me. Now, how does this tie into Martin Luther King? Because here's the thing about what I believe about a lot of what he said is that when we take that opportunity and that time with ourselves to develop and to heal ourselves with an eye towards how can, as we develop and heal, how can this be of service to the world around you? And how can you go out and be of service? And while also holding yourself accountable for yourself and your actions, and doing that which is for the best and highest of all humanity, while still speaking truth to power and doing your part without forgetting that at the end, we are all one and interconnected and interdependent on each other for a successful life. So to bring that in is my personal responsibility to myself is to heal. Because the more I heal, the better the world, better the space that I occupy will be. And then as I heal, my service is to heal. So my personal responsibility to myself is to heal myself. My action is to heal, is to share that as I heal, to help others to heal as well. Share my healing abilities. I know that I have these healing abilities. I am to cultivate them, expand them, grow them, develop them, and share them with those who will receive. And understanding that not everybody's going to receive my healing. Not everybody's going to like the way I heal. Not everybody's going to think that what I do is healing, and that is fine. There are those who will, and that's who I need to be for. That's my service. And then how do I take that service and and how is that leaving the world better than when I transition? Because the more I heal and the more someone else heals from my healing, it's the trickle effect. Then their children heal if they have children. They may not have children. Their friends, their families, the guy down the street, of course, it becomes this thing of where it starts to spread. And we've got healing going on. And then there's speaking truth to power. It's understanding that there are those who are not going to like the fact that I heal. And they're not going to like it, not because I'm a bad healer, but because I'm Black or I'm gay or I'm female or whatever. And then standing in that space and speaking truth and say, this is who I am and I am okay. I'm unapologetically me. This is who I will. And how I choose to heal and how I display my healing and the vehicles I use to heal with are my choices. But at the end of the day, I'm here to heal. And it doesn't discredit or take away from your ability to do your form of healing that works for those who come to you. And then leaving the world. So then when I transition, I can look back and say, I did my part. I took personal responsibility because really this isn't a competition. It's not. I'm not in competition with anybody. I'm not even in competition with myself anymore. One of the things that they say is that your biggest enemy is yourself, or the person you should be competing with is yourself. I say you shouldn't even be competing with yourself. I say that we need to really move away from that thought process that we have to be in competition with ourselves, because we really don't need to be in competition with anybody, much less ourselves. We need to just be. And I think that's what MLK was trying to say, that at the end of the day, our responsibility on this earth is to do what we can, love where we can, heal where we can, serve where we can, and leave the planet better than the way you found it when you showed up. And sometimes those methods and the way you do that can be painful, can be uncomfortable, can be nerve-wracking, can be triggering, but they're all necessary steps to get to this space. And right now I'm in the space where I realize that for me, mental mediumship, my mental mediumship is about healing. And my next step is, how can I use that to be of service? And how can I be of service in a way that is healing, that is continuing my own beliefs in myself, that I am here to heal, whether it's through marches, lawsuits, protests, speaking out, standing up, being the first, being the last, being in the middle. Every day asking myself, how am I leaving the planet better than when I got here? Now I conclude today by, that's with my thoughts. Our next gathering, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll probably get back more onto the spiritualist histories and whatever I come up with to find. But for now, on this day, it's not just about how you can be of service to the world. It's how you can be of service to yourself. Most importantly, What are you doing to leave the world better than the way it was when you got here? Love and blessings.